My name is Alex, and my life is not just the story of a transgender woman, it's the story of how a world you once considered your home can suddenly become hostile and foreign. I was born into a body that I never felt was mine, and from the very first moments of my life, I carried this internal fracture within me. It wasn't just a feeling, it was physical pain that I carried with me, one that never left me. When I was little, I couldn't understand what was wrong with me. The boys didn't understand me, and the girls didn't either. I couldn't play with them the way they did, I couldn't be like them. I remember how kids at school would often say, "You're not like everyone else," but no one knew what I really needed, to just be myself. I always felt like a woman, even when my body screamed the opposite. My world was feminine, even though my body wasn't. I hid it as best as I could, wearing masks. And despite all my efforts to be normal, whatever that meant, I always felt like a stranger in my own skin. I dreamed of becoming who I was always meant to be, and after years of doubt and fear, I finally decided to transition. The process was long and painful. Surgeries, hormones, endless consultations with doctors, these were physical torments, but they seemed insignificant compared to what I was gaining in return. Each day, I became more of the person I was always meant to be, and that was my salvation. But as it turned out, my transformation wasn't only about my body. My parents couldn't accept me for who I was. My transformation was something foreign and incomprehensible to them. My father would often tell me to accept myself and stop all this nonsense, while my mom cried, unsure how to support me properly. They loved me, but they couldn't understand that I couldn't live in a body that wasn't mine. Their words felt like blows because I had always sought their support, but they only grew more distant. My transformation became a betrayal to them. They tried to fight me, convincing me that all of this was a mistake, that I needed to go back to my old life, but I couldn't. I had to choose the path that was mine, even if they couldn't understand it. Then, a few years into my transition, I met Jack. He was a designer, worked at a fashion studio in the city. He was smart, had a great sense of humor, and genuinely cared for me. He didn't ask uncomfortable questions, didn't try to fix me, he just accepted me for who I was. It felt like a miracle. Jack became my support. He was the one who stood by me in the hardest moments, when I didn't believe in myself. We moved in together, and every day, I felt like I had finally found my home, my place in the world. Our relationship developed quickly. I thought I had found my home, my place in this world. Jack was always there for me, and I believed this love would last forever. We decided to get married, and at that moment, I was so happy it felt like everything had fallen into place. I was a wife, I was a woman, and for the first time in my life, I could be myself in every sense of the word. But everything changed when a new president came to power, bringing with him new laws. At first, we laughed, thinking it wouldn't affect us. But one evening, Jack came home with the news that a law had been passed recognizing only two genders, male and female. I realized our lives were about to change. It wasn't just about the law, it was about the system that was now dictating who we were and what could happen to us. I always knew that my life wasn't just about how I became a woman. It was a struggle to exist in a world that didn't want to understand me. But now, with the law on the side of this world, I realized there would be no turning back. Each day, after the law was passed, Jack became more distant. I could feel it, even though he never said it directly. He started avoiding conversations about us, about the future. I noticed that his friends became colder, and in his conversations with them, I would hear phrases like, "You know, the law is against you now." One day, I even overheard them talking about me, although they tried to do it quietly enough so I wouldn't hear. They said I wasn't a real woman. And those words fell on me like stones, one after another, heavy and cold. Even Jack seemed to be looking at me differently each day. His eyes, once full of love and acceptance, became less certain, less sincere. I could feel changes within him. He started to be silent, to avoid me. With each passing day, I became not just a stranger in his life, I became a stranger to myself. The pain was not just physical. It was the pain of realizing that the person I had been so close to could no longer accept my existence in this new world. I began to lose him, like sand slipping through my fingers. And there was nothing I could do to stop it. The process of transition, the hormones, the surgeries, the years of struggle, all of that seemed trivial compared to what was happening now. I had taken a step towards my happiness, but the world I once felt alive in had suddenly become a place where I could find neither love nor acceptance. One evening, I realized that the time had come when we could no longer be together. He was too scared, and so was I. Divorce became inevitable. Jack didn't argue. He said he loved me, but he couldn't live with a woman that everyone saw as a mistake. I couldn't believe that it had ended this way. I couldn't believe that the person who had once loved me was now ready to leave me because of the law and others' opinions. I won the lawsuit, got everything I was entitled to, property, rights, documents. But I felt how everything was becoming emptier. I gained my freedom, but in solitude. I won in court, but at the same time, I lost. I lost not just Jack, I lost myself in this world that was so foreign to me. And despite everything, I still tried to live. I tried to understand how I could return to this world, how I could get back what was taken from me. But every day, I felt how much harder it was to exist in it. Losing Jack meant losing not just the person who was part of my life, but everything I thought had once been real: love, loyalty, acceptance. I stood in that empty house, not knowing what to do next. But I knew one thing: I had to move forward. I couldn't stay in this past because, even if the world didn't accept me, I had to learn to live by my own rules, no matter what. And so, I was left alone. And as hard as it was, I realized that the only way to be myself was to walk through this world and show that I am not a mistake. That I exist. And one day, perhaps, the world will change because I will be on this path. My thoughts are still tangled and heavy, and I don't know what lies ahead.